This week on NWP, California.
All the leaves are brown.
Hello everyone and welcome to Nerds Without Pants, episode 108. We cover everything while bearing it all. I am Julian, and I'm joined as always by Patrick.
Here we come.
And Angelo.
I hate California.
Man, I kind of fell in love with it just after the last few days. But we'll get to that in Consumption Junction. We are going to, well, first of all, just a quick disclaimer. I am on the road, recording this from the road. I am in the guest room of my best friends in Colorado Springs, and I could not transport my Yeti along for the ride. So I'm recording this off of my onboard laptop mic. So I apologize in advance if the audio quality is not up to the normal snuff. I'm also probably going to do lighter editing on this one simply because I'm staying with friends and I'm not going to have as much time if I want to get this out on the release date. So, that's out of the way. Also, we had a new iTunes review, guys. So
Nice.
I'm going to pull that up real quick because we love new iTunes reviews. I'd actually tweeted on my birthday that the only thing I wanted for my birthday was new iTunes reviews for the podcast, and we actually got one. So, and I probably have to thank Bobby Bronson over the T&B podcast for that because he also helped get the word out. And also, I've been meaning to say this for like the last 3 or 4 episodes, but he said on his show that Nerds Without Pants is one of his favorite podcasts for video games. Aww. And that made my heart sing. So thank you very much, Bobby. We love you too.
Yeah, I mean, he's a real man. Like, he knows how to draw. He, has a job that he should have a better job at. And I really love that guy. Like, everything that I see on his feeds just makes me think, like, if he likes us, everybody should.
Right? Oh, son of a... Okay, so for some reason, iTunes reviews are not coming up right now, so I'm going to have to read that next time. But I can tell you that it comes from one John Marvin, and along with Bobby, he just started a new video game podcast, which is called... Your
favorite game sucks, isn't that what it is?
Yes, your favorite game sucks. So I haven't listened to it yet. I don't know if it's going to be my cup of tea just because I like to be a little more positive, but it's an interesting concept. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to check it out and I'll let you guys know about it. But thank you, John Marvin, for the review, and I will read it on our next episode. We're just having some technical difficulties right now. So yeah, that's probably it for preamble. So let's just go ahead and jump into some stage select. Patrick, this was your stage select pick. So what are we doing this week, bud?
All right, so we're talking about the top canceled games that we've had. I think I asked for 3 different ones, but I'm sure that a lot of people will have way more than 3 to talk about because there's been so many canceled games that we've had our hopes up for, and some people may even just have 1, but basically I just wanted to know about those games that gave you hope and had dreams and you were totally shot down about like years after.
I was excited about this one. Unfortunately, since I've been on the road for so long, I wasn't able to do the research that I wanted to as far as like giving more details on my games, but this was actually an easy one for me because I already had like 2 right off the bat without even having to really delve too deep into the graveyard of aborted video games. Oh, was that too dark? That might be too dark.
Well, I mean, it's just a term.
No one wants their spouse to get an abortion, man.
And now it's gone too far.
Just in case.
Well, Patrick, where do you want to lead off?
I think I don't really have that much to say about my games either. Like, that's not emotional. I really, honestly, looked at a bunch of top 10 lists and more fortified my idea on what were my top 3 because they were different games that I've wanted for so long and just haven't changed my mind about, even after seeing things like remembering things like Agent by Rockstar, which I would really have loved to happen, and honorable mention. Those things probably still might happen. They just take a long time in development cycles with new IPs, as well as like just changing the hardware is really difficult for a lot of companies, and that can often make people think that games are canceled, like The Last Guardian, but they eventually come out
right.
in forms that I won't play until they're really cheap because they strung me along for way too long. But for number 3, I wanted to start off with the Spielberg project, and I don't know too much about it because nobody knew about that so much, but it has officially been canceled as far as I could see from a few different lists, and it's called LMNO, and I think...
Oh, I picked that for number 2!
Damn! For me, that makes me LMNotional. Emotional. So,
Oh man.
yeah. It reminded me of the demo that the guy from Fables made of that kid, because like it was a short demo, but like the woman was like in the 1950s and had like a lot of emotion involved in it, and I just was like, this is so broad, like, and vague, but it's also like all encompassing of what like it means to be human. I think Steven Spielberg like needs to be in video games more than he needs to be in movies, because a lot of the worlds that he creates are almost interactive in a lot of ways. Like Avatar is getting 3 sequels, and they're gonna have...
Well, that's Cameron though. That's James Cameron.
Oh shit! Damn it.
But no, but you're right. Like, because like AI is like a perfect example, right? Like that's a movie where it almost feels like a video game type world, and you kind of want to explore it like on your own instead of just seeing it in film form.
Yeah, or Jurassic Park, which I think is him.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is like, it has its own world in it, and there's just countless different ones. Even Titanic people really like. But is that James Cameron? I don't know.
That's Cameron.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. And also 3/4 down a bottle of wine. But Angelo, don't give me that.
We're doing a sequel to the last episode.
Really? Oh, okay. But
yeah.
No. But the 1950s vibe combined with like emotion that you don't see or rarely see in video games was something that I was really looking forward to, and can't believe that they would cancel, especially with like the game that Steven Spielberg eventually did made. It was like Wii game that had like blocks on it. It was like basically Jenga or something, and I was like, damn it, you're so much more than that.
No.
Yeah.
Well, dude. Wait. You don't know how much Boom Blocks my kids played when they were...
Oh, and I played I played it one day for a really long time. It was really cool for like and I'm sure it would be cool for a long period of time for me if I were younger, but like if I were older, which I am, like that LMNO is like definitely in my top 3, and I don't know, Julian, it's in your number 2, so what do you...
Yeah, and I think we should back up real quick to kind of like expand on what it was supposed to be. Now, I didn't know about this game at all when it was... I don't even know when it was announced or anything like that. The only way that I found out about LMNO was a really amazing in-depth article that Matt Leone wrote for 1UP, like right about a year before the site was shuttered. And unfortunately, that article isn't on the site anymore because 1UP is basically just like a homepage now. But basically, you encountered this female extraterrestrial who, she can kind of pass for human. She's very tall and lithe, and like she has very long fingers and an elongated neck. And you're basically trying to protect her from like, I guess, government forces that are trying to track her down. And she definitely has some sort of like some powers and stuff. It's got a little bit of an ET vibe to it. But there was supposed to be this whole mechanic to the game about basically trying to educate her about the world and build communication with her. And then, and of course, I think it was going to be more of like a Heavy Rain type thing where I think you were going to have more scripted type sequences. I don't think it was going to necessarily be like super actiony or like an open world thing. I could be wrong. Like I said, I only have that article to go off of. And there's all I could find on YouTube was like a 30-second test bit of footage, which it looks really cool. But I think one thing we should say before we get too deep into this particular stage select topic is that, you know, we're going to talk about these games that we wish we could have played, but we have no way of knowing if these games would have actually been good, right? Like, you know, these games could have like completely fallen on their faces when they finally came out. But the cool thing about this subject is like, we can always think, well, what if, you know, what could have been, you know, and LMNO is like definitely one of those games where I really would have liked to have seen what that would have become if it ever did come out.
I think a lot of these games are probably canceled because they weren't fun, and you'll see that as like a recurring theme, especially when I get to number one for mine with what I know from developers. But I also think that a lot of people who are publishers are more conservative in what they give their money to. So if this didn't have all the money it needed in the first place, and those people didn't see like a game like Heavy Rain taking off necessarily, they would be like, well, at best, what is this going to do? Make its money back? I don't need like that kind of emotional stress on me for years in order to just like break even, unless I really love the project itself. And someone like Steven Spielberg probably had so many projects where he was like, I don't really need to go after this so much. It was great while it lasted, but I'm going to do something else.
Right. Yeah. And actually looking at my list, I'm sorry, Patrick, LMNO was my number 3. So I messed up on that. So Angelo, did you want to give us your number 3?
Sure. It's actually one of the most recent canceled games.
Oh?
So, Scalebound.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. I'm not going to say I was super hyped for Scalebound because, I mean, I know that's a weird thing to say, but man, did that look interesting. I want to know what the heck they were doing on that. And we never really got to find out. And I think that's where my list lands a lot more because it's, well, actually, I suppose that's what everybody's list is. It's like, you know, it's like, we don't know. We're going on.
Yeah, all of these games were just pure potential.
Who doesn't want to ride on dragons?
Well, some of them we had video for, right? Like, we had video for that, what was that canceled? We have video for some of them, right?
Right. At least a trailer.
We have trailers and concepts. In some cases, in the case of my number 2, I have only a website that had a couple of pieces of music on it, and that's it.
Can't wait for that. But Scalebound had that had real gameplay.
They had real gameplay footage of one encounter. So we don't really know what the entire game was. Like, what's the loop, right? Like, that's kind of what's the gameplay loop of that whole thing? We had no idea.
I felt like
we had a really good video of one encounter that looked pretty freaking cool.
Couldn't it have been like, I felt like it was like Horizon Zero Dawn, except instead of robots, you got not dinosaurs. You know, dragons.
Instead of robot dinosaurs, you just had straight up dinosaurs and dragons?
Yeah.
Is that kind of where you were going?
Yeah. Maybe they thought it was populated too much with like the same genre, but also maybe Platinum was doing too much.
It seemed Monster Hunter-y too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what it looked like to me. To me, it looked like a really flashy Monster Hunter, except you also have your own monster to back you up. That's really the vibe that I got from it.
And that's pretty stinking cool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like I kind of Monster Hunter, so I get why people like Monster Hunter, but it kind of always looked to me like kind of janky, like it needs a lot more polish. Like flow is really important to me in a game. And that game looked like it just didn't have what I was looking for in regards to flow, like Monster Hunter looks like that. Now I get that there's the whole point of the game is the boss encounters, right? Like it's one boss encounter after another and like super satisfying fighting experiences, but I don't know if that game would land with me. There's other games that sort of have a similar loop and it's the same thing. Like they always feel kind of, they don't flow right. I don't know how else to explain it other than that, but that was the same thing that kind of knocked me off of Freedom Wars. Remember I was talking about that for a little while. It's like, the boss encounters were great, but like the whole rhythm of the game is off. The whole flow of the game is off. I don't feel like these things all connect to each other.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just sort of bouncing around and not really. Like, where's the smoothness?
I also felt claustrophobic at the beginning with having just that little area where you start from.
Yeah.
But I feel like that is definitely a genre that is untapped in America. Like a lot of Japanese people have been buying like the Monster Hunters like countlessly, and I think that the Scalebound franchise could have easily come over to America and made people play a game like that like constantly. So I'm not sure why it got canceled because it looks so good.
Now, I haven't tried, there's two other similar games. I haven't tried God Eater, and there's like a really, really dark one on the Vita. I forget what it's called, where somebody has like a book of like stuff in it, like, what is it? Soul Sacrifice.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And the PS
Supposedly
Plus.
those two are very, Monster Huntery, but I haven't tried those, so maybe one of them got it right.
And
I don't know.
If Angelo, like the PS Plus over the last couple of years, or probably 3 or 4 years since I've had it, has given me one of each of those titles. And honestly, all I need is more people who like want to do those things. But I feel like, one, because we got them for free, and two, because there's been sequels and additions to them, people just aren't sure what versions to play and what's good, and like they haven't been like force fed this like advertisement like, oh, go catch these monsters or get these souls, except for Dark Souls. So yeah, I guess more people need to be aware of that type of a game, but also maybe they're not into catching those types of objects. Maybe they need to have dragons. Like I feel like I felt like, Microsoft was going to win so many people back by just having Scalebound as an exclusive, which I'm pretty sure it was, but I actually was probably mad as a fanboy that I wasn't going to get that. And also kind of relieved too, because I played so many Platinum games recently that I've just like wanted more from. Maybe they also needed more of a gameplay mechanic that wasn't there. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, we don't know which Platinum this was. Like, was this the Bayonetta Platinum, or is this the Ninja Turtles Platinum? Because they're two very different Platinums. And, I thought the footage that they showed at that E3, it was E3 last year, right? With the gameplay footage. Like, I thought that stuff looked good. But maybe they were just having a really rough time getting it all put together and stuff. So who knows what the whole story is. I
remember basically Microsoft saying that they had a hard time working with them at some point. Like that kind of came out.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Doesn't this happen every single time Microsoft launches a new console? Like, hey, we're going to get Japanese games on here. And we're done.
Well, yeah, but also was the director on Scalebound, was that Kamiya, the director of Bayonetta? Because because he's got an attitude. So like I could see them having trouble working with him if he was on the project, but I actually don't know. So,
does he have you blocked on Twitter?
I have never followed him. He seems like a very grumpy Gus.
But like he's like the grouchy old man that you want to live far enough away so that you don't annoy him, but you really want to be able to see him like on his porch throwing rocks at the kids because it's really amusing. You know what I mean?
It's like Japanese Clint Eastwood.
Get off my lawn!
The best teaser for a movie ever.
That was amazing. The movie was really good too, I thought.
Yeah, it was way better than the trailer.
Yeah.
But for my number 2, I picked Starfet 13 Squared.
What?
Star Wars 1313.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. I got you. Starfet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally forgot. I forgot about 1313. It's on yours too, Angelo?
Yeah.
Nice. See, I'm picking good shit tonight.
Good job, Patrick.
Yes! Oh, man. I mean, I don't know much about this game except that I was going to be Boba Fett, and that's all I've wanted.
I don't think you were going to be Boba Fett, were you? I think he was just in the game. Like, I thought you were a bounty hunter, but you weren't Fett.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
pack.
That's just how I remembered it. Like, it was going to be basically the story of Boba Fett, and I was like, yeah, he's only had a couple lines, and like all the different favorite movies of mine, and people love him so much, just like I do. Like, he's the coolest looking bounty hunter I've ever seen in the galaxy, this side of Spike. But
he messed with Luke pretty well with the rope thing and everything. He almost got him.
Yeah, and I love Star Wars. Like, I don't collect many Funko Pops, although I look at them all the time. But the ones that I do are all like, well, not all, but mostly Star Wars influenced, and a lot of them are, exclusives from Walgreens. And I don't have like the really good Boba Fett one, but it's like one of the ones that I'm really thinking about all the time. And like that, coupled with the scenes that he had and the original trilogy, just make me really wish that I was a bounty hunter, like in that kind of sense. Like I played as Dash Rendar in on N64, and I want to play as like a different kind of loner like that. And if I can just be my own bounty hunter, that's cool too. But I also would love to be friends with Boba Fett, because there's only one Boba Fett, and it can't be me, I guess. I mean, then maybe that's even better.
Yeah, for me, I was just excited, like, as a fan of, like, the Star Wars extended fiction, like, the pre-Disney stuff, because obviously, like, that stuff is gone now, but the idea of getting to explore, like, the deep, dark parts of Coruscant in an M-rated Star Wars game, like, getting to, like, the gritty part, because, like, we talked about this, like, when we did our Force Awakens episode, where, I like the dirtiness of the Star Wars universe. Like, everything always looks, like, worn down and beaten up, and especially when you get into the seedier parts of the universe, and getting to really explore that as like a bounty hunter dude. And like, I thought that would have been really cool. And then Patrick, like, I mean, it was Star Wars Uncharted. Like, that's what that was going to be.
Yeah.
Right.
I was going to move boxes in outer space.
And run from things towards the screen.
But it was going to look really good while I did it.
Naughty Dog just can't stop doing that, can they?
No, they can't.
Making you run away from things toward the screen. It's like, guys!
Did they do it in the Jack games? Because they did it in Crash and they did it in Uncharted.
Yeah. They like save it for the end of the games too. Now, I mean, Crash obviously was like the whole game until Warped, I think. But I'm like, man, it looks so good back there, and I love that. But like, where am I going?
Yeah,
it makes me.
I find it very frustrating.
I have like existential crisis when like that happens. Where am I going?
Did you have more to add on 1313, Angelo?
No. I want to talk about mine now? It's in a different place on the list, which there's only one place left, so I guess that kind of narrows it down, doesn't it? It's not number 2.
Oh, okay. So that was your number 1.
That was my number 1.
Damn.
Cool.
I love Star Wars, though. No, I love Star Wars. And I've been waiting for good Star Wars games, and man, I'll just do this now. I know it's my number 1, but whatever. I wanted to love KOTOR so much, but like the combat in that game is just weak. And that's kind of like, that's kind of my issue with a lot of those games is like that. I mean, Mass Effect, I've been told I should try Mass Effect, but I've tried every other BioWare game and they don't stick. So I don't know why Mass Effect would be any different. I don't feel very satisfied from the combat. And this is from somebody who loved an Elder Scrolls game. So but anyway, I've kind of been waiting for like a really good Star Wars game since, I don't know, when was the last one before this? Like, I liked Obi-Wan. Everybody hated that game.
I liked The Force Unleashed.
I didn't play that. I don't know how I missed that one, but I should probably go back and play those.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good dark powers there in that game, right?
Yeah.
I kind of want to electrocute somebody. That looks like a good time.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to be Senator Palpatine occasionally?
For a couple minutes. I want to go back to being a good guy, but I don't, like, every once in a while you want to get your Dark Jedi on and just make somebody get some lightning.
I don't want them to die. I just want them to feel like a lightning bolt throughout their like wavelength for until they're about to die.
Kill them, but I do want to ruin their entire day. Yes.
You don't want them to die. You just want them to feel your unlimited power.
Yeah, just put them in their place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But 1313. I don't have a whole lot more to add other than like the Star Wars nerd in me was really excited to see that. And then like part of me kind of was always like, this can't be true. This is too good to be true. this will never work. This will never happen. And sure enough, I was right.
Yeah.
But that reminds me though, should I like go back to those 64 actually I meant Super Nintendo titles that like got re-released on the Virtual Console, like Super Star Wars? Were those any good? Or like I played one that was like Yoda Stories or something on PC, and that was just like garbage that I couldn't figure out where to go. But then like the 64 title was awesome.
There were some really good ones on the PC. I think it was Jedi Knight. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
The Super Nintendo games at the time, they looked and sounded great, and you had like very great attention to detail in the Star Wars universe. I maintain that those games do not hold up today. They are not very fun.
You know what? You're right, because I after the last show, I went and watched a playthrough on YouTube, and I was like, oh yeah, this looks like the kind of platforming I don't like.
Yeah, and the enemies don't register hits.
There's some real bad stuff in that game.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it was about it. We rented it. I didn't own it. So that must have been it. Like I had it for just long enough to where I was just like, man, that game was cool.
Right.
So.
Well, for my number 2, so I did not own an original Xbox. I have never owned an original Xbox, but I was thinking about buying an original Xbox for this canceled game. And that game is True Fantasy Live Online, which was an MMO being developed by Level 5 Studios, who were the makers of Dark Cloud, Rogue Galaxy,
Professor Layton.
Ni no Kuni. Yeah, Professor Layton. This was a really, because you got to remember when this was being shown. This is like pre-Final Fantasy 11. So, this is like early MMO days and everything, and True Fantasy Live Online, it reminded me of like the dot hack anime in the sense that, yeah, you could be a warrior, you could be a mage, you could do all that stuff, you could go out and adventure, but you could also be a shopkeeper. You could like run a bar. You could basically like what you would consider NPCs in most MMOs could be populated by players. And I just thought that was really cool, like just fostering this whole level of community. And of course it's level 5, so it's got this really pretty cel-shaded art style. It had a lot of personality to it. Looked like nothing that was on the Xbox, especially at the time.
It was pretty far along too, wasn't it?
I believe so. Like I watched like a 5-minute long gameplay trailer today, and yeah, like it had. Oh, this is one thing. It had voice chat in a time before like that was a thing for MMOs. And it seemed to me as if like it was not just like it was a type of voice chat where if you walked up to a party, you could kind of join in on their chat. Like it wasn't like, oh, you're only talking to these 3 people. It was like, oh no, people can join in just like you would in real life. Mm-hmm. Like if you overhear something, you could be like, oh, well, you know what? That cave over there is, where I found this armor.
It was supposed to do the Halo thing where, if you got close enough to somebody, you'd start to hear their conversations. If I remember correctly, I'm not 100% on that, but I think it was supposed to do that.
That's what it looked like to me. And yeah, so that game just looked really cool. And like I said, like I was eyeing like magazine coverage of that game and everything, just very, very curiously and thinking, you know what, if this is good, I might, cause you gotta remember, like this was like not too long after I had played Phantasy Star Online and I wanted more of that. Yeah. I got bit by the like online RPG bug and I wanted to go even deeper on that. And I didn't have like a nice computer that could run like EverQuest or anything like that. Ooh. So, like True Fantasy Live Online was just something that I really wanted. And I probably would have ended up buying an Xbox just for that game. So that's my number 2.
Yeah. And man, I forgot all about that one. And that's one of the biggest problems with doing this list is once a game gets canceled after a couple of years, I kind of forgot about it completely.
Oh yeah.
Like that's just sort of how that goes, unless it like made a really big impact. And
yeah,
actually, no, I can't think of a game that made a big enough impact, except for like Duke Nukem Forever, because everybody kept talking about that, and then it came out, and we were like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, it's just like horror movies, where once you like see the unknown, it's not as scary or is not as awesome as what it could have been. Like your imagination. Right. That's why books are maybe the greatest medium of art in existence. Like once you know and see like someone else's vision for something or reasons for like things happening, it's not as scary or as awesome as it could have been. Like the not most recent anymore, one of the seasons of American Horror Story called like Freak Show. There's and a clown in it that like once you figure out why he's doing what he's doing, is like, oh, that's just sad. That's not scary. And that usually happens to me. But just side note, not Get Out. You need to see that. That made me feel so scared for like one of the first times since I was in high school. Like, yeah. And those kind of visceral feelings for me, either way, like you're talking about, don't happen all the time, and I think that will still happen for almost everybody who's listening.
Yeah, Get Out was fantastic, also. But yeah, I totally agree. Well, we got Angelo's number one. Patrick, what's yours?
My number two.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Angelo.
So I did my number one. My number one was Star Wars 1313. My number two is a game that was supposed to come out on the Nintendo DS, and it was supposed to be, let me tell you why it was canceled, or why it died first, at least according to the developers, is because the developers spent too much time and money trying to make the engine look as good as Chrono Trigger did. They wanted it to have that painted look. They wanted it to have like that level of audio quality. They wanted it to basically be Chrono Trigger, but they wanted it set in the Old West.
What?
So it was going to be Chrono Trigger. It was a game called Western Lords.
I have never heard of this.
Yep.
I was like, we had someone who made a game like that on our last couple podcasts. Yeah.
And that's how I knew that you guys didn't know about this game either, because otherwise I'm pretty sure somebody would have brought it up.
Yeah.
There was a website about it. It was in development for a couple of years. The website, you can't find it anymore. It's gone. If you go on YouTube, somebody managed to get the audio files that they had for two of the musical pieces that were composed for it. And those are on YouTube. You can find those. That's all that's left of this game.
That's
and
so
I think
sad.
there's a tiny little article on Wikipedia somewhere. It just didn't work. You know, I mean, all talks, like their visions were too kind of grandiose, and they kind of didn't really, they weren't able to like get it to happen, which sometimes that just is what it is, man. But man, the idea of Chrono Trigger, like, you know, scrappy kids gonna go save the world with like that level of whimsy and fun and like the multiple endings, like that's what they were going for. They were gonna make Chrono Trigger set in the Old West. That would have been amazing.
I would have bought that so hard.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the only difference with the guy we had on was it's pixelated more than hand-drawn, and that takes so much more time and so many more people to make something that even comes close to Chrono Trigger, where it's not possible without like a really big team of people. And I think that would have also merged two of the archetypes in different genres of art together to make something that could have been greater than anything that was in existence. Because if you look at different movies, like I said on that podcast, many of the highest rated films of all time and the films that people feel are the best ever are Westerns. And it's like, if you're going to make the great American movie, it's almost like gotta be a Western. Otherwise, like, what else would it be? Like moving west and conquering other lands and stuff like that. And even from the recent like Westworld and other movies and films that have come out in the last 10 to 20 years, it's obvious that people are like eating those kinds of art forms up, and I can't believe that it hasn't come out more in video games. But we tend to focus on sci-fi and things in the future rather than the past. So
the thing about an RPG is, it always feels like, even in like the typical fantasy setting, like the chaos has to be injected into the world, right? It doesn't exist there by nature. Almost every single one of them takes place in like the middle of some kind of a war or some kind of big conflict where, okay, like that's what's making this sort of stuff happen. Like some sort of external force made all this lawlessness and chaos. When you're talking about the Old West, it's just sort of already there. Like that is the default state of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of what makes it perfect for an RPG.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't have to go there and explain, well, this kingdom is fighting this kingdom, and that's why everybody here is killing each other, and then there's monsters somehow. It's like, no, you're in the Old West. There's snakes and scorpions and probably some other big creatures that just make sense because, we're in the middle of the desert and, whatever. And everybody and everything wants to kill each other. So here you go.
Yeah.
I mean, it just works. I would have loved to see what that would have been like, but not going to happen.
Old men whistling. We're back in San Francisco. We're back, and you tell me I'm home. Talking in the Mission over coffee. This is my utopia.
So, Patrick, what was your number one? Because I feel like I know what it is, but I'm still curious.
Yeah, I really want to hear you say it before I say it. So, do you really know? What?
I feel like it's StarCraft Ghosts.
Oh my God, it's StarCraft Ghosts!
That is a good
God
one.
damn it! How did you? Of course.
I actually played StarCraft Ghosts. Seemed okay. Seemed all right.
Really? Because the developers said it was boring, and that's why it was canceled. And that's the reason I put it at number one, because I was like, how could Nova ever be boring? She's Nova!
Well, I felt like the standout of the demo that I played, and I played it on GameCube at E3 like back in 2004, I think. The standout was the character design, because it's Blizzard character designs. But that's about the only thing that I remember from it. I also didn't know anything about, I still don't know anything about StarCraft, so there's that. But
yeah.
But why else was it your number one, Patrick?
Well, I mean, it's obviously one of the best characters ever. I'm more partial, honestly, to female leads than male leads because I realized, I'm going to look at that booty for hours and hours, so it might as well be one that I want to hit. But also,
all right.
Yeah, and also, femininity, and I'm a feminist, and put them in the forefront of the.
I don't know if you can say that sentence after the sentence you just said before it, Patrick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds a little hollow, but.
Also, you might want to check out the new Nier game based on what the internet's been posting about it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, the internet loves 2B. Holy crap.
2B's behind, yes.
Yes, it's all about that behind. And
I think it's ridiculous, but okay.
No, but
internet.
she's right up there with Major and my favorite female characters of all time. And I played a lot of StarCraft 2, especially when it first came out. I even have Heart of the Swarm, which I still need to go through more, but I can't play it honestly because I don't feel like I do her justice when I play it. I feel like I should be faster and I should be doing more. And every time I play it, I'm like, damn, if you were a real person, you wouldn't approve of who I am right now because I need to play more of your game. And so maybe it's good that it was canceled because I would never live up to playing her for who she should be. But yeah, I feel like StarCraft Ghosts would have been one of the best or maybe my favorite espionage games ever. You know how I like Metal Gear Solid. You know how I even mentioned in the honorable mention Agent, which is an espionage game made by Rockstar that I would really have loved because Grand Theft Auto is great, but it needs a little bit more of that. And I would really have loved that in the StarCraft universe with Protoss around because I love to toss their salad. I mean, Protoss their salad. But, puns aside, Angelo, I can't hear you.
I said, have some more of that wine there, Patrick.
I stopped drinking a half hour ago. I gotta go pee.
Well, let's get through this segment first. StarCraft Ghost was being developed at a time when, like I think if they were working on that game now, it would be out, because Blizzard in the last few years has really branched out as far as the types of games they make. But at the time, it didn't really feel like like your typical Blizzard project, you know, like them working on a console game that's a third person stealth game. Like, it doesn't really fit. But I mean, I like that stuff. I wish they would do more of that. You know, we've talked before in our many, many conversations about Overwatch that wouldn't it be cool if these Overwatch characters were in this type of game or this genre, or, you know, you got to play like, you know, this one character in their own game or something like that. So yeah, it would have been cool to see that game come to fruition. But like I said, having played it, like, the only thing I can remember is the character design.
So I only went to GDC Austin 1 year. I've only went to one GDC ever, and I got to thank my dad for like wanting to fund that, me going there and the project and everything, for me becoming like a writer in the industry, which never happened. Although I did meet people who were writers there. It's just like so hard to make it in that industry if you're not like well known in some aspect already. But the one thing like that, not the only thing that I took away from it, but the biggest thing probably from any video game that I took away from that GDC was that the developers there were not happy with the game that they made. And I talked to a few people who were like in the making of the dialogue and the process of the game mechanics, and they were just like, no, it just sucked. Like, that's why we canceled it. And I was like, how could that ever suck? I need to see it, and you need to play it. You needed to publish that game so that I could play it, because why? And they never told me. And so it's my biggest mystery, and that's why it's number one.
Yeah, and you know, that's the thing, and like I kind of alluded to earlier, is that we don't know what these games are going to be. And my number one game is one that I will fully like come out and admit that on paper it just seems rote as hell. My number one is a game called Faith in a 45, which was going to be a third-person cover shooter. Stop me if you've heard this before, guys.
Winback?
But this one was set during like the like Prohibition days, and you had a male and female character, and they were sort of like a Bonnie and Clyde type of setup. So, you know, they were teammates, but they were also supposed to be lovers. And I just thought that like the aesthetic, cause it was like very colorful in a time when a lot of third person cover shooters were not colorful. And also the Depression era setting was like really cool. And then on top of that, I really liked the idea of having two lead characters that were in a relationship from the get-go, and then getting to see that dynamic change throughout the game and seeing what they could do with that. Now, that being said, like, if you go and look at the trailer for it, I mean, it just looks like a very B-tier third-person cover-based shooter. But I've always thought about what Faith in the 45 could have been, and I get all wistful about it. But now, it probably, if it had been released, it would have just come and gone, and nobody would have paid attention to it.
Just to play devil's advocate for a second, because obviously it's your number one, but I think anytime I can mention Winback in the same sentence as a game that you really wanted to happen is a good time. And that also, of course, Bonnie and Clyde are going to fuck things up. We saw it this year at the Oscars, Warren Beatty. But even if they fuck things up, we're going to still love them. And I think people still would have played it, especially if it was more colorful than anything out there. That's most of the reason why I didn't like to play Killzone and why it gave me nightmares, or why other first-person shooters like Gears of War at the time didn't really appeal to me. Like, it needed more color, and a game like that, I would have flocked
to. Exactly. Yeah, you know, it's definitely it could have been something cool, but I kind of end up leaning more towards it being just kind of mediocre.
Right, but I mean, that's all of this is speculation. Like, a while ago, I talked about a game called Nostalgia, and that was supposed to be like the second coming of Skies of Arcadia. Boy, was it not. And I mean, you know, this game that's supposed to be the second coming of Chrono Trigger set in the Old West could have been hot garbage when it came out. And maybe that's why it was canceled. So, I mean, we're just going on like their vision of what they wanted to make, and hey, you know, those visions sounded real cool, so that's
They
all we got
did.
to go on.
All right,
Sorry,
over
man.
on Twitter, we got a handful. I think this one was a little bit more difficult of a topic, just because I think it takes a little more research, because there's not really like a good cohesive place to find this stuff unless you go to like Unseen 64, but even then you got to know what you're looking for. So, it's a little bit rougher of one. Philip, on Twitter at PK Becker only had one. He says it's the one from, Studio Santa Monica. He says no name, just concept art floating out there. I'm sure they had a good reason for canning it, but I would have loved to have seen a different game from the God of War studio. And yes, please. Like, after God of War 3, I was like, okay, let's see these guys do something new. God of War? Oh, okay. All right, that's fine, I guess. But, you know, those guys seem to have some pretty good ideas. And it'd be nice to see them do something a little more original.
Yeah, I'm totally with him. And I really thought that they were going to do something new because they said they were going to do something new. And then they didn't do something new. And now they're doing something that's not new. So it's going to have all these new mechanics, and it's going to have, like, you know, the kid that goes with you and stuff, and it's going to be great, and it's going to be like Horizon Zero Dawn except with a man, so more people will buy it, I guess, but it's
Says feminist Patrick.
just put a female in it. God damn it.
JD, on Twitter at a myth known as JD, says Mega Man Legends 3. Which that's a game that I think had no chance once Keiji Inafune left the company. If they had kept development of that game, nobody's heart would have been in it, and it would have shown in the final product. So it's probably a mercy killing on that one.
I should have expected it from JD, but I thought someone was going to say Mega Man Online before that.
Mega Man Online? You mean the like Mega Man Universe one or whatever?
Yeah.
That game was weird, man. Like, I didn't know what to think of that one.
It looked amazing.
It be like Battle Network?
It was like
no.
It was like Mega Man, except people made their own levels and they all integrated together into one larger Mega Man universe.
Oh, that is crazy.
Yeah, and like there was also different sprites for Mega Man. Like there was like Ryu and like other robots, and it was a weird looking game, man. But
it was like Mario Maker, except like, you know, yeah.
It sounds kind of like what they were. It sounds kind of like Mega Man powered up, but like weak sauce. Like that's. I mean, the Mega Man Online would have been the better version.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. JD's second one is Metroid Dread, which I never actually I mean, did we have any information on that really? Wasn't it just like a title?
I think there was a trailer, but I remember that actually was on my short list.
Okay. I'll have to go check that out, because I do not remember looking at any Metroid Dread stuff.
Is that a sequel to Metroid Fusion? Because I feel like everything else is a prequel.
I'm not even sure where in the timeline it was supposed to be. So I definitely have to go back and do some research.
As far as the timeline goes, like Fusion is the most recent one. Like that's
right.
I don't know most recent, but you know what I mean? Like the most forward in the timeline.
Yeah, but I don't know where Dread was supposed to fit in there.
I just want people to keep telling the story instead of saying, hey, whoa, there was something else back there.
Right, yeah. It's gotten crazy with that, for that series in particular. And his final one is Baten Kaitos 3 for the DS, which, I'm sorry, no, Baten Kaitos for the 3DS, right? Or, I don't know, it might be 3 for the DS. Either way, I didn't know that was even, in the works. But we know that JD loves that series. So.
I didn't know that was in the works either, but you figure there are 2, so there's probably going to be a 3.
Yeah.
Somebody had it on a sketch pad somewhere, at least.
And let me hop over to pixelbit.com, which is a website that you can go to and comment on Nerds Without Pants episodes. And we do have some comments there for Stage Select. Let me pull those up. Our trusty companion, Michael 117.
While you're doing that, while you're pulling those up, I want to say to the person who, I think it was Sidestep, that wanted me to be on a podcast, I would totally love to do that and just get in touch with me at my email or like on social media, because I lost my password and haven't gotten it back yet. And that would be totally cool. I'm down to talk at your intro to social media class or whatever. But yeah, it doesn't have to be that formal. I'm just down to do whatever with anybody who feels like they want to listen.
Michael 117's number 3 pick is Rainbow Six Patriots. He says Patriots looks like it was going to be a tactical single-player FPS with an intense story, but we got the multiplayer-only Rainbow Six Siege instead. And if you have not seen that trailer for Patriots, go do yourself a favor and check that out, because that game looked like it was going to be something special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it did.
Actually, back in the Pixel Talk days, when Patrick, Rob, and I were doing that, we did a whole episode based around shooters, and that was one of the focal points for the topic, because it looked like it was doing something so different with the first-person shooter, and like there was going to be like consequences for your actions and stuff like that. And it's a shame that never transpired.
Damn, that is a deep cut. Like, I love Tom Clancy and I love Rainbow Six. I read the book. It's like 800 pages, and there's some really good characters like Chavez, and I wish that they would expand upon that in any way possible. But unfortunately, we're going to get Ghost Recon Wildlands, which is just like a bunch of different random sectors that you have to 100% with all these side quests, which I had fun with for a little bit in the beta, but it's not Patriots, which is what we all want.
Yeah, definitely. Michael's second selection is Prey 2, which is not, we're getting that new Prey game right now, but this is a completely different game that was in the works.
That one was also on the short list.
Yeah. He says, I just wanted another weird sci-fi shooter that connected with the first Prey, and now we're getting a shiny reboot that I doubt will have any of the 70s hard rock blue jeans wearing Native American personality of the original. Also, Prey 2 just had I don't know if it was really going to have that much of a connectivity with the first game, but it had this cool Blade Runner in space vibe going on, and you were kind of like a cop dealing with aliens, and that stuff just looked really neat.
And it had a really kind of, how you said you like Star Wars, because it kind of feels gritty. This just felt dirty in a way. I liked it. It had a good vibe.
And his number 1 pick is Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 3. He says they started work on this, but Black Isle Studios ran out of money and couldn't retain the Dungeons & Dragons license. This is one of the franchises that got me into RPGs, and I wish I could have had more. Now that is the action RPG version that we got on console, to be specific. That's a different beast than the Baldur's Gate games on the PC. So these were more hack and slashy, and I didn't know that there was a third one in the works. That would have been cool, because as I've said on the show many times, I love those hack and slash action RPGs on especially on the PS2. So if I could have more of those, I'd be happy. We have a entry from San Andreas, who is a listener of the show but doesn't comment too often. Number 3 is Socks the Cat Rocks the Hill. Honestly, a game starring the first cat sounded interesting, even more so when the team released the ROM online. I don't know if you guys remember that. There was supposed to be a game based on the Clintons' cat.
Get out. Nope.
His number 2 is Mega Man Legends 3. It sounds sacrilegious, but Mega Man Legends was the only part of the Mega Man franchise I ever really got into. You are right, that is sacrilegious. I had the first game on PS1 and have since downloaded Mega Man Legends 2 and The Misadventures of Tron Bonne on PS TV. The game looked awesome, and it was just frustrating how Capcom just pulled the plug on the project. And yes, but like I said, I think in that one situation that may have been for the best overall. That's just my gut feeling on it. I don't know. His number 1 is Earthbound 64, which is the Mother 3 prototype.
Finally.
This is always the one that hurt the most. It looked great for the late 90s, coming close to Final Fantasy VII. And would have helped to fill a huge need for RPGs on the N64, which is very true. That you get used to that hybrid heaven, and there you go.
Yeah, I'll never understand why that didn't come out. I would have been introduced to RPGs sooner. I may not have moved to PlayStation like I did. May not have found Final Fantasy VII if I had played Earthbound.
Well, and here's the thing. Here's the reason. He says, sadly, it was a 64 DD game, which was the add-on in Japan.
And
instead
Europe.
okay, was it in Europe too? Oh, okay, I didn't know that. And he said, instead of converting into a cartridge game, which would have been feasible late in the N64's life cycle, they gave up on it instead and ended up releasing it on the Game Boy Advance. I guess by that point, I completely moved on to the PS1, but I still would have loved to have played it. Hopefully the GBA Mother 3 will make it out on the Switch eventually. So, thank you, San Andreas. Xrian chimes in with some very interesting... Well, two of these we haven't heard yet. His number 3 is Ura Zelda. A recent article reminded me of this.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to be an expansion to the Ocarina of Time. At the time, I had played Ocarina and at least a dozen times, and I couldn't put it down. The idea of new content was making me anxious. The Master Quest was supposedly the end result of Ura Zelda, but while great, was disappointing because it lacked true new content.
Yeah, there were supposedly harder quests, and I almost thought about putting that on my list just because it was a Legend of Zelda game and it was canceled. But then I was like, I was not looking forward to it too much because of what happened with the Master Quest, and I'm not sure how much of that footage and the gameplay was in the Master Quest itself. But do you guys know anything about that?
No, I don't, actually, because I was going to ask, was this also a 64 DD game? Or was it planned to be that? Because I remember the name, but I don't remember anything else about this project.
I think it was supposed to be like with the external drive, and so it seems like they canceled a bunch of the first-party games like that just because they didn't have any third-party support, which has been a theme ever since then.
Yeah, basically. Xrian's second is Metroid Dread. He says, the hints of another side-scrolling Metroid game had me salivating, especially since it was going to be the first to take advantage of my lovely DS. Unfortunately, it never manifested into a game we could all enjoy. At least Metroid Prime Hunters gave us our DS Metroid fix, right? Prime Pinball? Federation Force, maybe?
That's not a real game.
It just gets worse and worse for that series.
That's depressing to hear, actually.
It is.
Hear them all together like that.
His number 1 should be no surprise to anyone. Chrono Break. The game I still hold on to with a sliver of hope that it'll come. Not long after playing Chrono Cross, I read news about Squaresoft copywriting the name of something called Chrono Break. It immediately jumped to the top of my must-have list, and I waited very impatiently for any news I could get on it. Every E3 that passed without even a name drop drained my soul a little. That said, I do believe there may be a day where Square brings back the Chrono series. And I am surprised that Square has not leveraged the Chrono franchise again.
I did want to mention one thing that was actually kind of on topic.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, okay. So I didn't mention it because I don't think it qualifies, but if it could, it would have been in my top 3. Because it wasn't a canceled game. It was a game that they radically reworked and cut a bunch of content from in order to put it on the platform. And that's Secret of Mana. So,
okay.
Because that game was originally supposed to be a Nintendo PlayStation game.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We talked about this before.
Right, because you dropped that knowledge on me, because I had not heard that until you brought that up that time.
Yep. So that was... that was originally supposed to be a Nintendo PlayStation game, and man, I would have loved to have seen that version of it.
Yeah.
But we didn't get it. But we did get the game, so it wasn't canceled, so I don't think it fits the list, but I don't know what list it could possibly fit on.
Right.
So I figured I should probably just mention that, because it sort of fits.
It does. And we're going to go ahead and wrap up this edition of Stage Select, but before we do, Angelo, excuse me. Well, real quick, our next episode is going to be entirely dedicated to the year 1998, which is widely considered the best year in video games. So we will not be doing Stage Select on our next episode, but that only means that you have more time to answer Angelo's query, which is because it's his turn to pick for Stage Select. So, Angelo, what do you have for the good listeners for episode 10? Let's see, we're on 108. I guess 110. 110. Yes, 110.
110?
110.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay. I want your top 3 village themes. These are usually like from RPGs. I'm talking about music, obviously. So village, town, city, whatever.
Village people.
Top 3. I do not want to hear the Village people mentioned. No. No, I'm just saying. But yeah, I want to know like your top 3 town themes from. They don't have to be from RPGs. I suppose there's other kinds of games out there that might have these, but yeah,
I like it. That'll be a lot of fun, and just keep in mind that on that episode, I'm going to go ahead and be throwing in the music selections for everybody's picks. So that should be a fun episode to get a little bit of tunage into it. So, as always, you can go find us on Twitter to comment at NWPcast, or you can comment in the show thread for this episode, which is 108, or you can also wait until episode 109 and comment there, because we'll remind you, at that point about stage select. But we're going to go ahead and move on. Thanks to everybody who, wrote in and participated, and let's get some Consumption Junction going, guys.
Do you know the way to San Jose? I've been away so long, I may go wrong and lose my way. Do you know the way to San Jose? I'm going back to find some peace of mind in San Jose. LA is a great big freeway. Put 100 down and buy a car. In a week, maybe 2, they'll make you a star. Weeks turn into...
So, okay, well, this episode, hopefully it won't show in the final product, but this episode is like a dumpster fire right now, listeners. Like, we're just having so many problems. So I think we're going to try to go through the rest of the show a little quickly. I did not play anything since the last episode because I have been on the longest road trip that I've ever gone on. I left Austin, Texas last Thursday and headed out towards the San Francisco Bay Area, but I took my damn time to get there. I took a detour to go to the Grand Canyon. I spent a night in Vegas. Just kind of spent a long time just like kind of driving sideways, checking out the scenery, taking pictures, eating it. I ate at like one particularly cool little diner in California. Just been a lot of fun. But the reason that I went all the way out there was to record, some podcasts over at, the Comics Conspiracy, comic book store. That's where they record the Geek Box and the Comic Conspiracy podcast. So if you want, you can go and find me on episode 412 of the Geek Box. And you can find me on the monumental 300th episode of the Comic Conspiracy podcast, which ended up being their longest episode of all time. But it was a whole hell of a lot of fun.
Did you have something to do with that?
A little bit. Well, actually, Logan had a lot to do with that because we spent like almost an hour talking about Logan. But, definitely go check those guys out if you haven't already. I mean, obviously they're a much bigger show than we are, but there's probably a few of you who don't listen to those shows. Special thanks to Ryan Scott and Justin Haywald and Adam Fitch over at the Geek Box, and Ryan Higgins, Bryce Larson, Toby Sidler, Charlie West, and Brock Sager over at the Comic Conspiracy podcast. A lot of fun. Those guys are really cool. Type of dudes you'd want to hang out with, and it was a blast to be there. And also, like, it's a really cool comic book store, so I had a lot of fun.
Brie Larson?
Spent too much money. Bryce Larson, who oddly enough looks like a slender version of John Cena. It was kind of weird, but really fun time out there. And I did some sightseeing. I checked out Alcatraz and the Golden Gate Bridge, and walked around San Francisco, and kind of fell in love with that city. It's a pretty cool town. Super expensive to live there, obviously, but I definitely like to visit again. And I am still on the road. As I said, I'm actually in Colorado Springs right now, and I'll be here for a little bit before I finally head on back home. So, once I get home, that will have been the longest that I've ever been away from home in my life. Be like a full 2 weeks. So, I'm exhausted, by the way, because, I left the San Francisco area and drove straight to Colorado Springs, which took me 25 hours.
Yikes.
That's like a
I'm so
day.
tired. It is. It's exactly a day.
It's a day and 1 hour.
Yes.
It's like a day during leap year.
But I gotta say, and Angelo, we talked about this a little bit during a break, but, I feel pretty badass just because I just turned 37, but I'm not old. I just drove 25 fucking miles and I feel all right. I mean, I'm ready to go to bed right now, but I didn't like pass out for an additional 24 hours. So, feeling pretty good about myself right now.
Get it, Julian?
Yeah, it's all right.
I'm still young and virile.
I think San Francisco is a great city. I was there when I was in freshman year of college, or high school, or maybe 8th grade. But I also really love San Diego, and I think someone needs to talk about San Diego because that is like 72 all day, every day, all year. And even though they have terrible sports teams, they have a great climate. And I think it's also cheaper than San Francisco. And if you can't live in San Francisco because you're not maybe part of Silicon Valley or something like that, which I am going to be a part of, I think that it's a great place to live in California. And, if it's not Sacramento, it's not the Golden State Warriors, but I think it's maybe got the best climate that I've been in out of all the cities that I've been in.
It's definitely on my list. Like, I really want to visit San Diego sometime soon. But that's it for me. I mean, I played a little bit of River City Tokyo Rumble, which I just bought it on the last episode. It's good. It's a River City game, basically. Like, it's doing some cool stuff with like the depth of field and the 3D effects, and you actually get like helper characters in this that level up along with you. But if you've ever played that game, then you know what to expect. There's not much else going on under the hood.
There's so many ROMs in that game where I played like a game that was like River City Ransom, except it had like all dicks and like they had like changed all the characters' names and there was like sexual guns and stuff like that. I don't know what it was, but I just feel like I also can't go anywhere with that. It just happened. But I feel like I need to ask, like, what have you been playing, like, portably? Like, this is, like, the age of portability with the Nintendo Switch and the release and everything. Like, have you felt like you needed to pull the 3DS out more, like I do, or the Vita out more because we bought it?
Well, no, I mean, I brought my 3DS with me because I was playing River City Tokyo Rumble, but also my friends out here in Colorado Springs, they love street passing. So we street pass. Actually, I need to fire up my system because we street pass like, every day that I'm here. So, I'm definitely still playing it, but like when I was in California, like I had no time to play anything. Like I was just kind of go. I was like sightseeing during the day and then podcasting at night and then going to bed. So it was a pretty packed trip to, the Bay Area. And, I haven't had a chance to really play much of anything since the last time we recorded. Have you, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great, but I also did want to bring up the fact that I've been trying to get back into the 3DS, even though there's not trophies or anything like that, like I really want. But like Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons were two games that I bought when it first came out for the Nintendo Virtual Console, and I started back up on Oracle of Ages because I thought that was the first one to play, and I was wondering, I heard some people think it's like the best Legend of Zelda, and I think it might be an okay remedy for not being able to have Breath of the Wild right now, which is obviously going to be the best Legend of Zelda game ever, no matter where it goes on the timeline. What do you think about the Oracle games?
I I've only played Oracle of Seasons, but I loved that game. If you haven't played either of them, Seasons is considered to be the easier game puzzle-wise, and then Oracle of Ages is supposed to be much more challenging with the dungeon puzzles.
Yeah, I heard.
So just kind of keep that in mind.
I heard Seasons is more like action-oriented, which is why I started with Ages, because I feel like Legend of Zelda games are best when like they're dungeons that I can't figure out at the beginning. And I also felt like it begun the same way as Link's Awakening. I don't know if it was just like deja vu for me, or like the person that I found at the beginning of the game where I was like listening to her song and stuff like that, Nehru, or whatever. It seems like the beginning of Link's Awakening, and I'm not sure if they reused assets or like what happened there, if it's all supposed to be like a dream and stuff like that, or I just don't know where to place these portable Zelda titles, and I'm happy that I'm getting into that without buying a whole new system and everything to go with it, because probably now, since like Best Buy canceled my pre-order, I'm probably going to wait for the bundle. And even though like these Switch titles are going to come out in the next month or two, I'm not sure if I'm going to buy it until Odyssey comes out.
Right. Well, I mean, the Oracle games, it doesn't matter where you put them. Like, I'm one of those people who doesn't really care where you put Zelda games as far as like their relation to each other, as long as they're good games. And I think the Oracle games are some of the best. I mean, yes, they did reuse some assets. I mean, this was Capcom developing like a Zelda game. Well, 2 Zelda games, and it was almost 3. There was actually a canceled, going along with Stage Select, there was a canceled Oracle game. I forget what it was supposed to be called. But it was originally supposed to be 3, and then they just released the 2. But, I consider them to be some of the best in the series. But I'm also not one to really ask.
Dude, 1 or 2 of the people that I was talking to during the Nintendo event, like, said Oracle of Ages was their favorite Nintendo Legend of Zelda game, and I was, like, thinking to myself, well, I haven't played that. I have it. I should probably just do that first before I get to the better, newer, bigger graphics, which were also prototyped first on like 8-bit graphics. Like Breath of the Wild originally was going to be, or not was going to be, but like was literally the Legend of Zelda in 8-bit form, except with its own plot. And I was just thinking to myself, damn, all of these games started out like that, and now they've just got better graphics to show off what they really wanted to do.
Yeah, and I hope they actually release that in some form, or do a game like that, because I think that's really cool. Especially, like, if you play Mario Maker on the Wii U and see what they did to, like, the sprites on, like, Super Mario Brothers, like, 1 and 3, it looks so damn good. So, like, I would totally be open to, like, an 8-bit style Zelda game, like, on the Switch or whatever, and have it have that graphical style, but with new, gameplay mechanics and sensibilities. I think that'd be really nifty.
That's kind of why I like the Hyrule Historia so much, and the fact that The Legend of Zelda itself comes really near the end of the storyline so far. It's like it didn't need the graphics to tell the plot. It just like books don't need the graphics to give you the imagination for whatever happens. Whatever happens is in itself like going to be like part of you, and that's really what makes me feel like it's one of the best stories that's ever been told.
Sure. Angelo, why do you look more tired than I do?
I don't know. I don't. I'm not really that tired.
It's all this time travel.
I mean, I'm getting there.
It's the time travel.
But, nah. I suppose you want to know what I've been up to.
That would be great, sir.
That'd be great. So as far as video games go, did that backwards. There are 2 copies of Breath of the Wild for the Wii U in this house.
Oh, whoa!
How did that happen?
So both of, well, I gotta be careful because one of them doesn't know that it came in yet. But both of the kids wanted a copy. They wanted their own copy. Now, mind you, we have one Wii U. They each wanted their own copy. And the reason they wanted them is like, well, we need to have our own video game collection when we move out. And I'm like, you guys are really young to be thinking. You're 13 and 16.
Oh,
they are so your sons, though. That is like the best sentence that Angelo's ever said about his kids on this podcast.
It's pretty fantastic. But the other part of that is it's like I'm looking at these sealed copies of these games, And I'm like, they aren't playing video games because we need them to. We say, if you have a certain GPA, you can play video games on a school night. But if you don't, you have to get your grades up. And their grades aren't bad; they're doing fine. But we're just like, if your grades are excellent, you can play video games. Like that's kind of like the reward thing. They get it on the weekends. They get it on, days where there's no school. All that stuff. I'm not a barbarian, but it's one of those things that we try to use to encourage them to get good grades, and they do it. There's been one of them got to do it for a quarter this year. That was pretty good. So what that means for me is I can't bring myself to play those games before they do.
Oh dear!
Sitting there, because it's like they can't be upstairs. Be like, you guys got to leave the living room. I'm going to play this game, and I know you don't want to see it. So you have to leave while I play this game that you really want. I can't do that. So
Right.
I'm just staring at one sealed copy that's sitting in the kitchen right now, just going, I want to play this.
Oh, how has no one played this yet? Oh.
There's a sealed copy of Breath of the Wild waiting for me back in Austin. And honestly, after all that I've heard about it from reviews and other podcasts and stuff, that's my next game. I don't think I'm going to buy Horizon just yet because I need to experience this Zelda game. And I never thought that I would say that.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't buy Horizon with the system that I already have because I was thinking to myself, I just want to play Legend of Zelda. And even though I play Horizon, if I do play Horizon, it will never fill that itch for me because the Legend of Zelda is always what I want, in the end.
But it's exactly what I asked them to do when we were talking about reworking those Nintendo franchises.
They did it!
Then they also but then they also added some Etrian Odyssey to it because why not? And I'm like, you guys,
and
this is my game.
Did you know you can turn off the mini map too? You don't even need that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do because I've had enough.
Yeah, you go up to a vantage point and you look at the map and then you mark areas that you want to visit and you go visit them and I'm like, that's Etrian Odyssey. This is great.
Yeah, but I like the fact that I can just memorize it all for myself and also just explore endlessly. And I feel like games like Grand Theft Auto, any kind of open world game really funnels you toward the next point. And although that's great for efficiency and beating the game in a timely manner and knowing exactly where you need to go at every time. For a game like Legend of Zelda, for me, that is going to be something that I just want to get lost in and want to be real about. And I'm going to do that.
I'll tell you what annoys me though. There is speculation, and I think there's some pretty good arguments for it that they stripped functionality out of the Wii U version.
Oh.
And yeah, because there's some sections of the game where people are like, this was clearly meant to be done on a separate tablet. You have the tablet, it was made for the tablet controller, but even on the Wii U version, it doesn't use the tablet controller. So they actually went through and pulled that stuff out of the tablet controller. My guess is because they didn't want people saying, well, don't get this on the new Nintendo platform, get it on the old one because that's the better version. So in order to eliminate that,
they didn't want to have the same problem that they had with the GameCube to the Wii transition, where that was the thing, right? The widely considered better version of Twilight Princess was the GameCube version.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that pisses me off because, they made my game worse.
You want the best Sheikah slate possible.
I do. I want to hold the slate in my hand.
Wait, so are you still left-handed, though? Or did they, switch it to right-handed?
Well, I'm not swinging. It's not waggle physics, so it doesn't matter what hand I swing the sword with. It's just the tablet has the stuff on.
I'm left-handed. It matters to me.
Okay, great. And one of the Kickstarter board games came in. Well, the only one. Well, two of them did, but one of them is the one I'm talking about, which was that we had, and I'm mentioning this. Well, I'm not mentioning this because of this, but we had Lance on the show from Tasty Minstrel. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And they had a Kickstarter for Colosseum, which there's a story behind that for anybody who's really into board games. I'll be very brief, but essentially it's a Grail game. It was published by Days of Wonder in a really, really, really nice production. And once it was sold out, they didn't reprint it because they couldn't justify reprinting. So Tasty Minstrel got the rights, and they kickstarted it, and there was more than enough interest to justify the printing, so they printed it, and I got my copy. Here's something that's really weird about board games, and this is where this will definitely be interesting to anybody who's listening, regardless of what side of the fence they're on. Say somebody sells the rights to a video game to another company. Now, this has happened before, and that company goes, all right, well, we're going to make like an HD remaster of this or whatever, right? They would do an HD remaster of the game. Maybe have to re-record the audio, right? Something along those lines. Sometimes that stuff happens. Sometimes they have to cut out some of the tracks that were in there. Well, the same thing happens in board games. So essentially, they got the rights to reprint the game, but they didn't get the rights to the original artwork. So they had to do their own artwork. So here's the deal. Like, Days of Wonder is like top tier video game publishing, and Tasty Minstrel's pretty good, but that is a hard bar to reach. And
Days of Wonder does really cool they do Small World, right?
Board games.
But they do
yeah.
Okay, yeah, and Small World looks fantastic. Like, that art is beautiful.
Their art is gorgeous. Their production quality is through the roof. Tasty Minstrel's in-house art is hit or miss for me. And I'm not trying to be insulting, but like, I have a game that I absolutely love that was made by them. And like, one of the characters, there's like a female character that literally like in the artwork has no shoulders. And I don't know how this happened. So now I don't want to say Coliseum is bad, but it seems to have sort of like a multiple personality thing going on where there's like 3 very different styles of artwork happening here at the same time. One of which is really cool, which is the one that's on the sleeve that comes on the outside of the box. And then like the main artwork. And then there's like another type of main artwork that are kind of back and forth. And it's a little disjointed. And it just doesn't look as nice as the Days of Wonder stuff. But what they did do, like, I think they know their strengths and their weaknesses. So they said, well, we can't really like knock it out of the park with the artwork. But what they did do is they redid the currency, and it's these really nice, actually metal coins that are like stamped, and there's a ton of them in the game, and that's really cool. So and there's like a nice velvet bag that comes in it to like do the drawing stuff from. So, you know, I think they did the best with what they had. So I'll definitely give them credit for that. And the game itself is great. I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet, but like that sounds like a weird thing to say. But, you know, just knowing the mechanics of the game and knowing like the sort of history it has and the reputation it has, like they got a great game. That's what I kind of mean to say. Like, personally, for me, I'm pretty sure it's going to be great. That's why I kickstarted it. But they, you know, and they just like, well, we can't do what the original publisher did, so we're going to do what we can. And that's what we got. I'm generally good on them. I think it's great that they went back and took this chance on it, and it ended up paying off for them, I think. And, you know, like I said, like they seem to like really lean in on their strengths with this. So cool. I like it.
Awesome. Is that all we got?
Board games.
Oh, wait. So remember how I said I was done with Tera?
Yeah. What happened?
My character may be level 60 right now.
What? What were you on the last episode?
Why?
I was in like the 20s.
Holy crap.
I don't know, Patrick. I don't know why. I think the thing is it has a good loop. Like all those MMORPGs have the same kind of loop, right? You go to an area, you clear out all the quests. One of the quests point you to the next area. You go to that area, you clear out all the quests, and so on and on and on. I just think mechanically the game is enjoyable. And I'll tell you what, the boss fights are good. I think that's the one thing that they do in this game that you can't do in another RPG, because I've had some boss fights where it's just like, you know, I've had to fight it a couple times. And then like when I'm done, like the hands are in the air, like, holy crap, I did it. Like that kind of thing. And it's because it's an MMO action RPG, which I don't know if another one of those even exists. So like you're actually dodge rolling. I said this before. You're actually dodge rolling. I'm actually like rocket boosting out of the way and then turning around and I'm actually throwing like little robots out now to kind of like distract the thing from coming after me.
Mr. Zircon.
Yeah, kind of. There's like I can do that as well with the class I'm playing. So I think that's why I'm still playing.
Did you pay a lot for a mount?
I'm not. I haven't bought a mount yet. And actually, I do have to correct that a little bit. So it was like you were saying. I don't know. There were multiple pages, and I guess I didn't just see the little tab on the bottom of the rest of the mounts. And I went over, and they had some that they run like $20-$30, which I think is reasonable. Not. I mean, let me rephrase that. I don't think it's a reasonable amount necessarily to pay for a digital item, but if I'm going to contribute to the game because I like it, I don't think that's, you know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of, yeah.
Like if you got to like, is 60 like the cap?
No, I don't know what the cap is, but 60 is like the first half of the game, and then the second half of the game is after post 60. And I guess that's where like people are running instances and stuff.
It's like real life.
That's where all the Sure. You retire and then your life is good, I guess. For like, yeah. But I guess that's where like a lot of the meat of the game is. And that's where the game got really, really challenging too. So I've been level 60 for like a good couple of days because it's just like the EXP is harder to come by at this point. And all of the big enemies I'm facing are very difficult. So like the challenge actually finally caught up with me. And I guess that's why I didn't fall off the game.
Have you started grouping up with people or engaging with the community, or are you still just soloing everything?
I just started. I met a couple people and, you know, partnered up with them for a couple things here and there. So I don't like I haven't engaged with the community. Just like every once in a while I run into somebody doing the same thing I am and they throw me a party invite and I'm like, sure, why not? And we run around and kill things.
Cool.
That's fun.
Yeah. I mean, that's really my favorite part of those.
Yeah, I think I'll get there, except so both times where I partied up with somebody, it's like, I'm not quite sure about you. And I'm not trying to be insulting, so don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But both times I'm just, I don't know how to explain it, and I don't want to sound like a jerk, but every once in a while, like, it just kind of like, I don't know about this. But whatever, we're just running around shooting robots, so I don't care.
But after a while, though, it just feels like, yeah, I'll meet some people, and then we can kill stuff together.
Yeah. But at the same time, like, I don't know, like, I feel weird because I had to roll a chick because, and I don't normally do that when I play MMOs. I roll my own gender. But I had to because the only way to play a gunner is to be one of two specific races and you have to be a female. And I'm like, well, I really want to play gunner. So I guess that's what I'm doing. Here we go. And then like a tiny chibi girl with a foxtail comes up to me and I'm like, I know there's a dude playing this thing. I don't know about this.
You know, with most MMOs, I would say that's not the case, but with Tera, I would say you're 100% correct.
Some people from Pixelbit come play this game with me, so I don't feel so uncomfortable, please. The game is almost like going out of its way to try to make me uncomfortable in certain places, but whatever. It's a fun game. I'll live. You know what I mean? So
well, we'll look forward to the continued journals of Angelo's gunner in Terraland.
Ridiculous! I can't believe I'm even talking about this.
You're married, Angelo.
Oh, stop it!
But we got to land the plane on this before it just completely explodes. So we still have some Chrono Crossing to do. So guys, let's hit that music. And we are Chrono Crossing back to the year 1999, and I'm going to go ahead and just go first. Because my original pick, I realized was, I had to disqualify it because it is a re-release and I could not select it because of my own rules. So yes, Angelo, I did it to myself, but
Wait, was that Lunar?
Lunar, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Which is, okay, so the weird thing is that, like, Lunar 2 is actually my favorite RPG on the PS1, and somehow I missed it in previous Chrono Crosses, but maybe it's just because there were other games that came out that I liked more than that, but,
yeah.
Couldn't pick Lunar because it was released on the Sega CD years before.
Oh, yeah.
So that meant that my pick is Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver.
Oh.
That's a good one.
Which is it's a surprisingly intricate game for the PS1. Like, when you're shifting between realities as Raziel and the whole background distorts and shifts in real time, like, I still don't know how they did that on that hardware. It's amazing. And it continues the story of Blood Omen Legacy of Kain very well. Excellent voice acting, wonderful graphics, and also feels like Zelda for adults. Like, we're kind of going with a theme this episode, but
yeah.
Like the puzzle dungeons and some of the boss battles, like the way that you solve them and stuff. Like, I remember this one boss where, you basically could not beat him hand to hand. Like, he would annihilate you. What you had to do was actually shift into the spirit realm and attack his body in the spirit realm. And I forget, I think you had to impale him or something with ethereal spears or something like that. It's been a long time, but I just thought it was a really cool thing where, like, here was this seemingly impossible foe. And then, but you just had to use your ability to shift between planes of reality to take him on in a place where he couldn't touch you. And just stuff like that was just so cool. So yeah, I love that game. Like, it was, I think it's the first game I remember that had, like, a really well integrated tutorial where when you wake up as Raziel, like, as you're moving through those first few areas, it's teaching you how to play the game. And there may have been games that did that beforehand, but that's the first game that I remember to really actively do that, where it wasn't a separate mode that you would pick from a title screen to teach you, like, what the controls did.
Oh man, did anybody mention this on, like, the best intros thing?
I believe I mentioned Soul Reaver 2.
Okay, because I remember this one had a really badass intro.
Yes.
Like, super awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, love that game. Love that series, even though, like, you know, Blood Omen 2, is not a high point, but the rest of them are very good, so,
Damn, I wish I, like, had been a part of that, but I was so young, I couldn't even play mature rated games. It just makes me think of the only one I got my hands on, which was, like, Metal Gear Solid and Psycho Mantis, and where you had to, like, basically beat him if you turned, like, your controller from port 1 to port 2, and otherwise you could never win. But.
Right.
Cool.
And actually, just to go back to Stage Select real quickly, the canceled Legacy of Kain game that I just found out about a few months ago was almost on my list, because that's one of my favorite franchises. And when I found out that they actually were working on a legit new game in the series that got canned just like a year or two ago, that really chapped my hide.
Yeah.
Patrick, what about you, bud, for 1999? What did you play back then? Oh, by the way, I played 51 games this year. In the count. I don't know if you guys remember the count.
I forgot to count.
I did not count.
It's okay. It's not a big deal, but
I played a lot this year, though. This is probably one of my bigger years.
Yeah, Dreamcast launch. So there was that.
Yeah, I had a friend 2 doors down who was not related to the band and also got Dreamcast. And that was like my birthday. It came out. I'm surprised I didn't get it, but I had another system already and was fine with that. I'm not that hardcore, I guess. During this year, I didn't play it, I think, the first year, but I got it way later, and I'm pretty sure it came out, Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah, that was this year. It came out the same day as the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was amazing for me. It was like my second RPG, obviously after Final Fantasy VII. That was like the real deal, like 40 plus hours, and I had to spend all of it like with the characters and Squall was like the first name of like my first piece. And yeah, I sold that to a friend who also like loved that game. But yeah, obviously that game is amazing, and the energy crystals, we used to like yell that out in high school, like, oh my god, the energy crystals, oh, I gotta collect them all, like. And I just absolutely loved everything about it, like the fact that you could miss different summons if you didn't know you were facing against them, and you need to extract them during the enemy fights and stuff like that, like Carbuncle at the beginning. And I also just really like the plot itself, and I don't really know how to talk about it in depth as much anymore, because I played it the only time I played the RPG was when I was in high school, and I don't usually replay things, but it made one of the most long-lasting impacts on myself throughout history that any game has ever have. And I think that I really need to just give it up to Julian, because I'm surprised you didn't pick this game, and please tell me all about why I love it.
I mean, I can't, because it's one of my least favorite Final Fantasies, so
oh god, no.
That's why I didn't pick it.
No.
It's one of my favorite soundtracks for the series.
Yeah.
I find it to be one of the most challenging games, because I didn't figure out how to break the battle system the way that a lot of people did. So I was limping to the end of that game, because I exhausted all of my resources in the final battle, because that game is weird in the way that enemies level with you, and it's based on your highest level character, and somehow
isn't that a good thing?
Squall got leveled. No, it's not, because Squall got leveled to 100 somehow, but everybody else was like way lower. Like, I think I had some characters that were in the 30s. And so when I got to the last boss, hey, she was level 100, and my other characters were like level 40 and below, except for Squall. And that was, I think I must have fought the final boss of Final Fantasy VIII for about an hour straight before I finally came through. And I barely did it. And the only reason I did is because I sold my Bahamut card for, I think you got like 99 megalixirs. So every time she would do like a big, like massive, like party killing spell, or almost party killing spell, I would just drop a megalixir and I'd be fine.
Damn, an hour? You think that's hard? God of War 3 on hard mode for the first time. Jesus.
Well, no, but for an RPG, because like, you know, especially for Final Fantasy, like, I beat Kefka on Final Fantasy VI in one turn, because I was so over-leveled. So, yeah, that was a pretty rough one for me. But that being said, like, it's always the one that I want to revisit the most. And I think it's because maybe, like, there's a lot of people who are very fond of it, and maybe having a better understanding of the mechanics now, and maybe doing some research before I play it again, like, maybe I would get more out of it this time. But, I mean, that was the first Final Fantasy that I can remember where I was getting towards the end of the game and I was like, when is this going to end?
Well, I mean, it was still one of my first RPGs, and I'm surprised that, like, it was one of your least favorites, because I think it's great that a bunch of characters could all be, like, together in sort of a boarding school type atmosphere, and then, basically all hell breaks loose and they all, like, have to band together. And I think it's great that, like, there's, like, that sense of camaraderie. But I also knew that you'd probably pick, like, the Soul Reaver game that came out. Although I'd never played it for myself and never could buy it at the time, I was just like, there's nothing really that even comes close to this as far as me personally liking a game, and especially like playing it for the amount of time that I did. And I'd be doing it a disservice not to like say this was the game that I played most that came out this year. So
yeah, I'm glad you picked it, because I don't think any of the listeners did, and it definitely deserves to be talked about, because like it's one of the best games that came out this year. It's just like, for me, you know, comparing it to like other games in the same series, like it ranks probably in the bottom half of the list for me.
Yeah.
But that's just for me. Like, you know, I know plenty of people who it's in their top 5 or even top 3. So
it was
you know, I'm definitely glad you picked it.
It was surprising that it was so low on Metacritic for like the average review score to me. It was like below 10 or something like that. And I was like, damn, this is like the only game I can pick this year, because I played it so much. And I know you can like break every single Final Fantasy game just based on like how you level your characters, But for me, that was one of the easiest games to beat, and as well as like the most fulfilling because of the way that like the whole gameplay was structured. I don't know why a lot of people disliked it like you did, but I mean, you liked a lot of parts of it, obviously, and you're a big Final Fantasy fan, and I love the soundtrack just like you did. But I at the time, I was like to my friend, oh yeah, 7 and 9 are both better. But like now that I look back on it and I saw the other games that were out this year, I was like, there's no way I can pick anything else.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I guess real quick for me, like I didn't like the junction system. I didn't like the weapon upgrade system. And what was the other thing? Oh, and then like the summon system, because this was the one where you had to like tap on the buttons in time in order to boost them to do the best damage. Mm-hmm. And that got real old real fast.
See, I like that kind of active time, and I like the fact that the junction system kind of builds on itself in Final Fantasy X. And a lot of people like Final Fantasy X, but I felt like the two of those are closely related. Am I wrong?
Well, I mean, 10 does the junction for the summons because you can basically like use items to like upgrade stats and stuff like that. But the junction system on 8 is where you're basically, you draw magic from different enemies or from different well springs, and then you affix those to your stats, which means every time that you cast a spell, you're making yourself weaker. Mm-hmm. And so then I mean, I get the risk and reward thing for that, but then it comes to a point where it's like, okay, I've exhausted this spell. Now I have to go like basically farm for spells just to make myself as strong as I was before. And that just didn't appeal to me. I think
like me, you just farm 99 of everything for everyone. Yeah. And then by the time you're done, you hate yourself in the game.
Right.
The other part of that game that really frustrated me is they included in the game on the code and even like all the instructions in the game, a whole thing that involved that save card with the LCD screen that the PlayStation had in Japan.
Oh yeah, the Pocket Station. But
they never released the Pocket Station here. But all that stuff is on the disc, and the game even tells you about it, even though you can't do it.
Well, if you
infuriating to me,
if you buy a Pocket Station, you can do that stuff. Like you
import it.
Yeah, we sold a ton of Pocket Stations at Game Fellas. Oh yeah. I think it's that and like one other American game, and I forget what it is that works with the Japanese Pocket Station.
Yeah.
But Angelo, what was your pick for 99?
So this was like a huge year for me. Like I was going through and I played, I swear, half these games, because it was like the big PC year, I suppose. At least for me anyway. Oh my gosh. Like so many of the games I love like got their start here or whatever, but I had to give it to another first person shooter. It was Unreal Tournament. That was definitely the game for me.
Were you really hard? Well, yeah, because back in the day, you were like really hardcore into the multiplayer scene.
Well, not only that, this was when I was in college, so I was playing with all people I knew.
Right.
So this was like the LAN party days. This was like I wasn't really playing this online. I was playing this all with people I knew. And man, I got so good at these. I got this and Counter-Strike came out the same year.
You were annihilating your
Age
friends.
of Wonders came out this year, and I could go on and on and on about games that came out this year. But this was the one that just it felt the best to play it.
Oh, I got Age of Wonders.
Huh?
You said Age of Wonders?
Oh, the new one?
No, the old one. That was given to me like for Christmas by my best friend back when it first came out, and that was a great game.
That was a great game. It was a little bit broken though. I think they fixed it in whatever the second I'm talking about. But the second version of the second game, which was called Shadow Magic, was like the best version of that game, which is why I didn't pick it. But like friggin' Unreal Tournament was just mind blowing. It was fast. It was fun. And you could just get proficient at some of these weapons. Some of them were garbage. Okay. Like who really liked that gun that shot a big wad of goo at people? You know which one I'm talking about? I don't know if you guys played it. There was one gun that was just basically like a giant syringe, and you could either shoot like little balls of orange, of green goop at people, or like work up like a big one and then shoot it at them. And that was the only thing that did any damage. You had to use the alternate fire. They all had alternate fires. you start with a pistol, or and then if you picked up another pistol, you could dual wield them, and then you could hold them sideways, and they'd shoot less accurately, but they'd shoot faster. The flat cannon. This is one of my favorite weapons. I don't remember if it was my favorite weapon of all time, or if it was. I don't remember where it landed on the list. It was either number 1 or number 2. I'll tell you that much. I'm pretty sure it was my number 1. But this is.
I remember you picking that one.
About.
Yeah.
What's that?
I remember you picking the flat cannon, and I only played Unreal Tournament briefly on the Dreamcast, but I remember the damn flat cannon.
Yeah. Oh, if you were good with that game, you could just own a map. And I got real good with that flat cannon, man. People freaking hated me with that thing. But it was balanced because they didn't give you a whole lot of ammo. And you had to pick up specific ammo for the specific weapon. So they made you cycle between your weapons. They made you run out of ammo and find more. They made you find health pickups. Your armor didn't regenerate.
Oh, yeah.
The game, and that discourages camping. You have to move. If you stay in one place and you take a couple of bullets, you can't just wait for your health to regenerate. You have to get out of there and find a health pack. And then maybe you can go back to camping, but maybe not, So anyway, and campers were still a problem, sort of, but after a while, you just learned where they hung out and lobbed something in there. The shock rifle was great. It had that alternate fire that shot out like a ball, and then you could use the primary fire and shoot the ball with it, and it made like this nuclear explosion that just obliterated anybody that was close to it. It was so much fun. I missed that game. I can't go back to it. I can't go back to it now because there's just like nobody plays it. But man, that was a good time.
I'm surprised games like that just don't make iterations on themselves. Just like Counter-Strike, is still playable today because people have updated it and it's called itself still. So I'm not sure why people don't still play. I mean, I guess they do, but like
there's new versions of Unreal Tournament, and I don't want to be that guy, but I am going to be that guy for a second about this game because like they added vehicles and they added this and they added that, and somehow to me, okay, I'm not going to like yell at anybody who's like, you ruined my game, but it did take away like the purity of the run around an arena and shoot people nature that I liked about that game. I like the fast, arcadey, and sort of basic nature of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, some people are like, more. That's fine. Have your game. Have fun with it. Enjoy it. But this was where it shined for me, was when it was a little simpler. So, that's my pick.
That's an excellent choice. We're going to run right through these listener picks, because this one is just disintegrating before our eyes, people. Michael117 says, this is over at pixelbit.com. He says, it was between Siphon Filter and SimCity 3000. SimCity was completely addicting, but at the same time, Siphon Filter let you wield an absurdly long-range taser that could electrocute dudes until they burst into flames. Also, like, it called out headshots every time you did them, and I thought that was really neat. He says, I have to choose SimCity 3000. Siphon Filter was a cool shooter with some novelty mechanics that I thought were hilarious, but SimCity was the game I thought that I kept coming back to after school got out.
SimCity 3000 was another game I really liked that came out that year. It was really good.
Yeah. San Andreas says, well, okay, so my favorite game of 1999 was Lunar Silver Star Story Complete. He actually does mention the Sega CD version, because I was going to say that it, like I said, it is kind of disqualified, but I could understand because they did so much to Lunar Silver Star Story Complete that it's almost like you can easily forget the Sega CD version. But he goes on to say that I wanted Lunar ever since I saw the ad for the Sega CD version, and I was excited when the clerk at Electronics Boutique had told me that it was being remade and re-released, and on the PS1 instead of the Saturn, no less. I'd probably have bought a Saturn just to play it, though. Yeah. Like I said, it was going to be my pick until I realized that technically it doesn't count on our criteria. Jamie Alston, a fellow writer at Pixelbit, says, for him it was a tie between Ape Escape and Ridge Racer Type 4. Jamie, you can only pick one. Ape Escape was the very first time in my life that I'd purchased a newly released video game. I felt like I had finally caught up with everyone else instead of having to buy games that were a year or two older. And then he goes on with Ridge Racer Type 4, says, it's gotten plenty of accolades over the years, so I won't waste time gushing over it. But my best memory of that game was when my brother brought it home, and we saw the intro movie for the first time. The first few seconds were so impressive that we thought he somehow got the wrong game. So, And okay, so here's what's funny. I had commented on the last episode that Xrian missed his shot to call out Chrono Cross for Chrono Crossing because he didn't comment, but he actually did comment as we were recording, or right after we recorded the show. So he didn't get his shot, but he picked the Japanese version of Chrono Cross for his 1999 Chrono Crossing pick.
What's the difference?
I'm going to go ahead and allow it. Well, I mean, we typically go with the US releases for this show, but I'm going to let this slide because it's Xrian's favorite game of all time, and he missed his chance to gush about it on the last Chrono Crossing. So he says, easily my favorite game of 1999, parentheses based on the Japan release date, and even my favorite game of all time. Without it, I don't think I'd even be here listening to NWP, which would be a shame. I've replayed Chrono Cross enough times to see all the endings and collect everything. It was my first trip into RPGs, which may be why I'm so nostalgic for it. I remember seeing the commercial for it, the cutscenes and music grabbed me, and I knew I had to have it based on off nothing else. I can still recite the opening poem since I'd watched the whole opening cutscene before starting the game every time. I would sit down the controller while I listened to another world play in the background constantly. I realize it isn't perfect, especially as the years have passed, but it's still the game I remember most fondly. I know I'll be replaying it well into my old age. So, glad you finally got to say your piece on it, Xrian.
Yeah, it's also supposedly one of the best openings in the history of video games as well, and I'm glad that he mentioned the poem or whatever at the beginning of the title, because I watched that in addition to many other openings, and that's one that stuck with me as far as, time travel and all of that.
Yeah. Over at Twitter, we have JD, at a myth known as JD, who says, for 1999, Jet Force Gemini is my game.
Oh, of course!
I didn't know about it at first.
Yes!
My uncle bought it for me on a whim. Initially, I wasn't too interested, and if anything, I was scared of it because it had blood. I was a wuss as a kid, but I quickly learned that it was a really cool game. Three potential protagonists, cool weapons, and a cool multiplayer element made for some great stuff. Some of the bosses in the game were really memorable, and my friends and I really bonded trading the controller and trying to best them. I still think about the game often. It's a hidden treasure.
Oh my god, yeah. I wish this game was made more often, and it made me feel so much like The Legend of Zelda in Outer Space, more than any other title at the time. And I'm not even sure if that's an accurate parallel at this time. But I remember playing it. No, it's not. It's not. But I remember playing it into the next year, and liking it on Halloween. We used to have big parties every single year, and I did not even talk to anybody at the party because I was just playing Jet Force Gemini and I was losing and dying all the time. But I was finding different aspects of the game that would help me along the way, and I just kept renting it over and over because it was so good, and there weren't that many things on the Nintendo 64 at that time that would bring me back to it over and over again. And that's probably why I really equate it with Legend of Zelda, but I really feel like it's one of the forgotten gems, and we've talked about this before. It's also just one of the gems in general of the N64, and I'm so glad that someone brought it up, and of course it's JD.
Well, I am glad that Chris IOZ on Twitter at Crozy brought up Soul Calibur on Dreamcast, which set the bar so high you could barely reach your beer. Hashtag tavern puns. Soul Calibur on the Dreamcast is a phenomenal game. Mm-hmm. And as we realized as we were looking at the Breath of the Wild Metacritic on the Geekbox, Soul Calibur is one of the top 3 highest rated games on Metacritic. So, it's actually, I think it's tied for 3rd place with, I think Breath of the Wild and a few other games. So, it's an amazing game.
Dude, this is actually a threshold that has never been crossed for me ever in the, face of video games before, but there was a girl in high school who used to come over to my house to play Soul Calibur on Dreamcast to be Link and beat whoever else that was playing. And I've never, ever had a girl before or since who wanted to play a fighting game. Ever.
Wait, you mean she came over to play Soul Calibur 2 on your GameCube to play Link?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Just wanted to
God damn it!
As...
Strike it from the record. It's an entire bottle of wine has been drunk.
Think we need to ban bottles of wine from Nerds Without Pants for the foreseeable future.
Damn it. Damn it.
Philip at PK Becker, again with the ever the one for brevity, says Driver, which I love Driver. I had so much fun with Driver, and I never even got past, like, I think the second stage. I just loved playing San Francisco over and over again, and I would just basically try to survive as long as I could against the cops. And then there was a really cool replay editor that you could do, and I would just, like, save replays and, like, re-edit them and change the camera angles and stuff. And I actually had one replay where these two cops, like, ran into my car from opposite ends, like, after I had already crashed, and it sent me 50 feet into the air. And that was a wonderful moment. It was one of those wonderful glitches that you don't see too often.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it. Not too many participants for this episode of Nerds About Pants. Maybe for the best, considering that, like, this one's completely on fire. But
Fire.
I'm hoping that you all come at it strong for the next episode, because for episode 109, we are going to be dedicating the entire episode to the year 1998. And as such, I want everybody to give me their top 5 games of 1998. It's just too big of a year to just pick one.
Only one wins, though.
Only one wins, but
Highlander.
You know, at least we can, like, say our piece about a bunch of great games that year. And I'm sure with our lovely listeners, we'll get a bunch of interesting feedback besides the obvious ones, which I'm going to say right now. You already know them, and yeah, they're going to be at the tops of everybody's list. But there's other amazing games that fit in all sorts of different genres and play styles and stuff.
There's a reason for that.
There is. But as always, you can hit us up on Twitter at NWPcast, for that selection. You can also go to the show thread at pixelbit.com for episode 108 to comment on your top 5 games of 1998. Yeah, that's gonna do it. We need to like put a bow on this one, and because I've got my work cut out for me and not a lot of time to do it. So damn tired. You can always find us on the Twitter. Patrick.
This too shall pass at some boss.
Angelo.
I'm at a roguish ham.
And you can find me at Julian_Titus. Hit us up with an iTunes review, and we'll get caught up on those on the next episode as well. If you want your review read out loud, that would be swell if you want to hand us one of those. And that is going to do it for this cursed episode of Nerds Without Pants.
Fucking Colorado.
Thanks for listening. For myself, Patrick, and Angelo, thanks for listening, and keep it pantsless, internet. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
It's the edge of the world in all of Western civilization. The sun may rise in the east, at least it's settled in a final location. It's understood that Hollywood sells Californication. Sergeant Barry, while to break the spell of aging. Celebrity skin, is this your gender? Is that war you're waging? Firstborn unicorn, hardcore, softcore. Dream of Californication.
Are we all here?
Oh, now I hear you.
Yeah.
Hello?
Did I put you on the spot? Well,
Okay.
you're here.
This call is terrible.
Oh,
no.
I'm going to shut my
You're
camera
freezing
off.
a little bit.
you just froze
That'll
up, man.
help.
Uh-oh.
We lost our host.
No, where's our host? I am
Is,
I'm
our
a
host?
parasite.
Can you
I
guys
need
hear
the
me?
host. Host.
He's totally frozen. Man, you know what? It's kind of a shame we weren't doing the year 2000 video now because that's it right there.
Yeah, oh my god.
I hear
Like the guy with the
Patrick-
flashlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's
Aw.
totally gone.
All right, somebody get him back in here. Hold on a second.
Oh my god, yeah, let's just talk shit about Julian right now. We can never do this.
Oh, I can't. Can I not add him to the call?
Really? Damn.
I'm dialing him back. I'm dialing him back.
Should I go to the bathroom right now?
No, hold on. Make sure he comes back.
This is like the longest legendary pause in the history of our pauses.
Dramatic. The dramatic pause.
Wait for it.
That little Moogle's just sitting there.
Yeah, I mean, we're still recording. This shit's happening.
He's going to put some of this in the show. You know what he is.
Yeah, I mean, if not in the normal show, it's going to come out like in the outtakes, but...
Nope.
Speaking of outtakes...
I think he lost his connection completely.
Damn. Fucking Colorado. God damn you, Colorado. You and your weed-smoking crack pipes.
That's the thing. Everybody who's working the phone lines is all, like, high out of their minds. People don't need their phones. Uh-oh. Hold on.
My God. Yeah, they could do without it for a little bit, man. Just give them this White Widow. Yeah. Get some half pipes. This snow is so blow.
He's not. The thing's not even trying to connect now.
Oh my god!
Like if I go to try to dial him.
Where's your motivation, Julian? You've done too much weed.
Oh, there he goes.
That's the only time Julian will
on.
ever hear that, but he didn't hear it.
Ah, no.
Hey, are you guys there?
Hey.
Oh my god, Julian! Why'd you smoke so much weed? You lost.
Man, the internet here is not great.
You lost your motivation.
All right, man. I was hoping to not have to do any editing on this one, but this is going to.
You're going to have to do some editing,
trust
sir.
me, we gave you some gold.